Hey everyone, welcome back to Nagali Park, and this is where we left off last time in the last episode. This particular episode is not a full episode, but I wanted to show you something that I'm very, very excited about. You may have noticed in the last episode I have a lot of custom things in here that don't necessarily exist in the game. This giant tree here, this big old red tree here. And so I thought to myself, I really wanted to bring that to you guys because it is something that I enjoy doing, making some of the custom stuff out of existing assets. And it functions really well in the game too. You know, you want to be a little careful with like ground covers and stuff like that, because if you layer too much on, it does tend to get a little laggy. And so when you click the button, it brings in all of the pieces. Plop it down there, and you can see that there are 38 pieces here. There's this big old thing that you don't necessarily need, but it helps to kind of show off each of the useful pieces. So let's just say, for instance, okay, let's take this jacaranda tree. What it is, if I bring it in, copy it, you can see that's how I ended up doing the trunks too, is that it is a marula tree pretty much buried in the ground. So understanding that, don't overuse these pieces. You want to really use them kind of sparingly. But the real magic is when you open this guy up, and I'm going to highlight the whole thing and then deselect just the bottom, and then you can see that you can control all the different colors. And so in this case, I've chosen purple for even the leaves, and that's how you kind of get that purple tree look. But if you want something a little bit more, yeah, something like that. I tend to choose things that are not in pure tones. Pure tones don't look natural. You want to kind of end up over here in this area. But yeah, you can kind of do that. And then just use what was left there, and voila, you have a completely different tree. I have done that. I've made a few presets for you. The jacaranda is a little smaller, but there's also this big red cherry, and there is this giant tree which I really, really like. This is, I'm calling it a cottonwood. This is all built out of roses. This is why I keep harping and saying this. There's no Theme Maker's Toolkit necessary. This is all in-game assets. And you can do a lot with it. So I've tried to make these pieces pretty useful by having centers and extensions, like this bougainvillea. The bougainvillea on its own is fine. It has this nice kind of bottom here. But bougainvillea is a large vine and it will take over a large area, so I added this extension too. So if I go over here and add this to my building, we'll just ignore the fact that it's going through concrete right now. But you stick the base piece on, and then to extend it, you just pull the extension piece, duplicate it, bring it around, bring it up, and you just kind of layer it in as necessary. Sometimes you can bring it down a little bit, that helps. And then I can make a copy of that and just bring a little bit more over. And so you end up having a realistic kind of looking vine. Instead of one that just appears out of nowhere, you have one that starts from a base over here and it works its way on top of the structure. So I want to encourage you guys to kind of play with different colors, especially on these ones back here. These ones are, except for the swamp tree, these are make your owns. So I've given you the components to make your own thin tree, which is like this guy, and like the eucalyptus, all started from the same tree. Make sure you bury them in properly too. But it's just a different color between the leaves. And so if you want to do something like, I don't know, something more of a fall scene, you'll take this tree over here, and to make it easier for you to select, I've left it separated. And so then you can change your tree. And so for this, let's just say I'm going to do a fall scene. So Yeah, something like that. Maybe a little bit more red in there. You know, and maybe this side has just a little bit more of an intense orange going on. Because trees don't necessarily all change color at once. They sometimes have different parts that change color at different times. And maybe this one's just a little bit lighter. And maybe this one's just a little bit. I'll just go back to this color and go a little darker. So now that that's all done, all I have to do is take the whole top, plop it down on top of the base until it matches up pretty nicely. Then save it as my own tree in my own scene and duplicate as I please. So I've also based it on this large tree too. And this one's even easier because it's separated by two components. So what I'll do is I can change all of the leaf textures at once. And so again, I'm going to do kind of a really late maple. And again, I want to change. So I'll go in here and I'll change some of the components. Oops. Maybe this one's a little oranger. Maybe this section has gone just a little bit brighter. There we go, I've got my fall tree. Then all I have to do is make a duplicate. And make a duplicate. Combine those two trees together into one. And there I go. So the name of the game here is definitely more experimentation. I have included some things that are easy, just kind of plop and plays if you want to do a beer garden. I've got these trees here set up in a pattern, and all you have to do is place them in and copy them over. So I've got big trees for you to play with. I got these cool like stone pines, and you know, you'll want to like squint your eyes a little bit, and it sort of looks like a stone pine. If you look too closely, everything looks like roses anyway, but yeah, that's the limitations we have here. And this really cool windswept pine too, which is just a little scragglier. And then I also have these really, really tiny things too. Things like, you know, dead hedges. So if you end up having a line of these guys, this is a really, really tiny piece. If I put it next to a person, you can see how small the scale is. You know, it's about hip height. And that is pretty much in scale with what you would see at a theme park. But in case that you don't want your hedge to be perfect, I've also included dead pieces for you too. And you stick those in there, and it just looks like part of the tree or part of the hedge died. Lending a little bit more realism to your parks. And as a bit of warning, I would say that you want to take a look and see how many objects I've used on these trees before you start plopping them in. Since they are all roses just mushed into a ball shape or something like that. There are, so like for the stone pine, for the small ones, 215. For the large one, it's 248. For something like the cottonwood, which is the largest of the whole group, it's 384 pieces. So one will do you fine. you don't want to go too overboard with this, but I am giving you the option, like this one hedge piece is 55. So use it sparingly, and in some cases it can also be useful to kind of plop it in, open it up, and just remove some bits too, if you want to be a little bit more efficient with your part system. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Everything that I've used in the circuit ride is in that pack. The large tree, or the large shrub there with the white flowers. The hydrangeas, if we can call them that, they're there. All the hedges are there, although I just added a little bit more ivy to that one. The big red tree in the corner there between the car ride and dragon, and also these really cool horizontal junipers, which are literally just these trees on their side. When you kind of work them into a landscape, they look pretty decent, and they're a good use for them. You can get a lot of ground cover out of these single junipers just laying on their side. And so with the set, if you use some of these street trees, you can have some trees that don't completely dominate your main street or your buildings or anything like that. Because I think the smallest tree that we have in the game is the ash tree, which is sometimes too small for the area. And then if we jump up to the next one, it's usually a birch, which is sometimes not the right shape for the area. And then if we go to something that's a little bit more branched, yeah, then we have the beech tree. And so in each of those cases, the ash tree can be too small. This one has a nice canopy on it already, a good round shape. It's not going to compete with your buildings at all. And then this one at the end here has a nice kind of spread out canopy. And I think I'll leave it there, guys. I think you've waited long enough. I think you have waited through my teasing and my complete whoring out of this set. I am super excited to see what you guys come up with, and I cannot wait to have it in your hands. It is available at the Steam Workshop. And if you do like the set, please go ahead and upvote it. It would really help to get it on the front page, and it'd be really cool for Frontier to see that yes, foliage is important, and the stuff that they have given us is great. I would like more recolorable things for sure, and in general, if we can get the limitations taken off the Theme Maker's Toolkit. I mean, this is why this set exists, is because there are 8-meter limitations, and some of these trees are just not, it's just not doable. You know, we could do some of these smaller ones, but it's, if the assets already work in game, then why even bother? Why bother adding more textures, more files, longer load times? If we can use what we have in game, then we're solid. The true episode 3 should be here next Tuesday. And yes, you heard me right. I am putting a date on myself. We are going to make these more regular. I am not going to be a meme anymore. If you liked what you saw today, you know what to do. I really hope to see you in the next episode, where we should be tackling... I don't actually know yet. I don't know if I want to do the Main Street area, or if I want to work on the Pan-Asian area. Haven't quite decided. But you will know by next week what I have decided, and I hope to see you there. Alright, see you later, guys.